faceoff. Shoots it, deflected, right in. Pietrangelo save, rebound. Stastny stopped by Pietrangelo. I don't believe that save. Neither does Peter Stastny. He can't believe the save that Pietrangelo just made on him as Frankie Sparkly. Now that maneuver there to stop and rob Peter Stastny. He get 5 to 10 for that.
Hello and welcome to episode 35 of Tendy Talk, presented by the BLPA Podcast Network. This week I chat with fellow podcaster Tanner Houston of the Windy City Benders podcast over on the Hockey Podcast Network. Tanner and I talk about how he got his start in the game of hockey, playing in the Chicagoland area, and he shares that he once worked at the legendary Chicagoland pro shop Gunzo's. Without further ado, here's the conversation. Well, Bud, thanks for joining me today. I appreciate it. Always fun to have a fellow Chicago goalie on the podcast.
Yeah, not a problem. I'm excited.
Yeah, it's, I've been listening to Windy City Benders for quite a while now. In fact, I think it was when you guys teamed up with Beer League Talk that I first heard of you guys and, listen to the podcast since.
Nice. Well, that's awesome. I'm glad.
Yeah. So before we even talk podcast, let's talk some hockey. How did you get into playing the game of hockey? You know, having grown up in Chicago, I know it's always had a dedicated fan base, but at least when we were younger, well, I shouldn't say I don't know how old you are, but it wasn't what it is today.
No, yeah, that's true. I'm 31, so
okay.
I grew up in the 90s, but It was funny because it was really my best friend growing up because his whole family was from Michigan. And so his whole family had played hockey and we became friends by playing t-ball together. And it was funny because it was just the first kid that I saw that was on my very first t-ball team. And I was just like, you want to play catch? And he's like, sure. And then we're just my dad told me to throw like this the whole time. And then at the time though too, because I have an older sister and my mom was putting us in all these different kinds of activities together in sports, and so we did tennis and did soccer, and it was just a mess. But then my mom put my sister in figure skating, and so she was like, so you're gonna do figure skating? And I was like, okay. I guess so, that's fine with me. And then I would just literally skate around everybody in circles and not pay attention to anything. So then my dad talked to my best friend's dad and he's like, yeah, he skates really well. He's like, well, you should put him in hockey. And so then my dad's like, all right, that sounds like probably a good idea. And then we started playing hockey together.
So you start out in figure skating, which, I think sometimes hockey players laugh, but there's something to learning to skate as a figure skater because their skating stride is what it should be. And in fact, there are teams that employ figure skating instructors as skating coaches. So learning to skate through the figure skating route probably isn't a terrible thing. In fact, I didn't go that route. I went to the Murray Bannerman skating school.
Oh, nice.
So there's something to that. So your dad puts you in hockey, was it the classic, it's your turn to play goalie and that's how you got hooked, or what drew you to that?
Well, actually what it was I played defense for the first year. And then in my second year, we just didn't have a goalie. And so they were calling around and hey, does this kid want to play goalie? And nobody wanted to do it. And then they called my dad and he was like, let me ask him. And you want to play goalie? I was like, yeah, yeah, man. I would love to do that. I don't know why. I was just like, yes, that sounds great.
Yeah. It's just something about it. It looked cool.
Yeah. And, I think it was the pads and the helmets and everything. And I was just really, really into that.
From there on out, was it goalie full time since then, or?
Yeah.
Okay. What association did you play for?
Well, when I first started playing hockey, I was because I live in Oak Park, and it was the Oak Park Eagles. Yep. Which was this, and I remember my first game we played we played the Chicago Wolves, which I don't even think is a club team for kids anymore. So it was two teams that are no longer in existence just going at it. And I think my first game as a goalie, we tied 5-5. And from there, we got absorbed by the Chicago Blues, but we had left the year before that happened. I don't know. It was weird.
Okay. All right.
But yeah. Just played goalie from like 1996 until like college.
You're making me feel old because I was playing high school hockey at Brother Rice in '96.
Oh, okay.
So where did you play your high school hockey then?
Oak Park River Forest. So we played Brother Rice a bunch of times.
Yep. Yeah. Those were fun times whenever we got to play outside of the Catholic League, because we weren't very good when I was there in league play, but whenever we played, as we said, the public schools, we fared well. We didn't win them all, but we fared well. So
okay,
that was back when Mount Carmel was a dynasty, winning state championships and Kennedy Cups. And so it was nice sometimes to get out of league play. And
yeah, I know how like going to like see some games growing up at like the high school hockey, I was just like, oh my God, like the Oak Park team wasn't good, but also like the kids were just insane.
Yep.
I was like, holy shit, like everybody is going to murder everybody.
Like, yeah, it's funny that mid to late 90s high school hockey in Chicago, I think a lot of people just hear high school hockey in Chicago and they're like, whatever, but they don't realize how tough it was back then. It was kind of like the Federal League of high school hockey.
Yeah, basically. I'm pretty sure like every time like we had a game, and if there was a high school game before us, or like if we stayed around to watch one, like a fight broke out, like and half the time it was during the handshake line at the end of the game. And I was just like, oh my God. This is crazy.
There was a team visiting from Sweden when I was in high school, and they were a bit younger, so I wasn't playing that game, but most of my teammates were. And same thing, in the handshake line, the fight breaks out. They may have beat us handedly in the game, but we won the fight.
Oh, yeah. You got to do that.
Yeah.
You got to win at least something.
The amusing part about that fight is like half of these kids from Sweden were staying with families from our team. So it's like, all right, we just beat you on the ice. Now you got to go home with us and laugh about it.
Oh my God. That's hilarious.
Yeah. So you played your high school hockey. How did that career go for you?
It went pretty well. I mean, I played varsity like all 4 years. And then by the time my senior year rolled around, we came in first in our division in the Metro West, like just for the regular season. It's the first time that had happened in like 25 years, which was pretty great. It was great too, because like I said, my buddy that got me into hockey, like he played with me in all the way through high school as well. Cool. But he had also like switched a couple of teams like growing up, like played AAA, and then we had another guy who played AAA. So we had some like good, like really good players, and like my best buddy, he's our captain, and then I'm our starting goalie, and like I'm starting every single game. We literally have no backup. And then my dad's like our manager, so he's setting us up, and he had been my manager for like most of like growing up. So he got us into tournaments in Canada and like all over the place. And so we would always play like more games than a lot of other teams, I feel like. So my friend would like, he also kept stats like crazy, because my dad would videotape every game. And then like we have a spreadsheet of like goals, assists, like penalty minutes, plus minus, like it was crazy. My friend had maybe 55 goals and 65 assists in like maybe 60 games. And it was just insane. And I was like, this works out very well for like being a senior. And we were probably one of the better teams at the high school at the time. And we always draw a crowd, and we always had Sunday home games for some reason. And the place would just be like crazy loud, and it was fantastic.
Yep. I loved the simplicity of scheduling in high school sometimes, where it was like, you always knew this day, this time you had a game. It's interesting you mentioned, that you guys played more games than other teams, because in Illinois, you play as many games as you can schedule. And then when I graduated college and was coaching up here in Minnesota, it was, no, this is how many games you have for the whole season. You use them wisely. And I was like, oh, so they really put the emphasis on practice up here, which is good. There were times I think my team could have benefited from a few practices, but the ability to play so many games was fun too, and to build up those rivalries for those handshake fights.
Oh yeah, I'm so glad that didn't really break out as often, or like I don't think it really happened as much when I was in high school. Like I think that's something that they were like, you're going to be suspended for the rest of the season if that happens.
Oh, like, yeah. I remember my junior year, I was playing JV because we had a senior starting varsity. So state playoffs, I think we were playing in Downers Grove. And it just so happened my parents were out of town. So I went to the game with some of my friends' parents and teammates. And I don't know if you remember Downers Grove's ice rink, but there was like this railing in the middle of the stands, not going up and down, but across. Okay. And we were all sitting behind the railing, and there were some students from Downers Grove sitting in front of the railing, and they had a few beverages before the game.
Yeah, you know.
And they start talking, yelling stuff up to not us students, but the parents. And one of the dads is like, guys, I know you've had a few, calm down, well, in the middle of this game, one of these kids just comes flying over the railing, throwing punches and, at this dad, and this dad's like, well, now I got to do something and put the kid in his place. And
that's ridiculous.
Yeah. So the game stops, the cops come and separate everybody. And we think that's that. And we wound up losing the game. Everybody's shaking hands. And one of the kids from Downers Grove just sucker punches one of our players in the handshake line. Well, now the fight breaks out on the ice, and you see a couple of the seniors trying to break things up. And it was almost like at the same moment, they all realized we're done playing high school hockey. It doesn't matter if we get suspended. So now the goalie, he's trying to pull people off, and then all of a sudden he turns, and now the blocker is going, hitting people.
Oh my God.
All the seniors are like, who cares if we get suspended? We don't have another high school game. And we wound up getting escorted out of town, not just the arena.
Oh my God.
We had a police escort out of town. It was crazy. But to the arena staff's credit, as the cops were there, they're like, no, these people were trying to de-escalate. So that's why the cops are like, no, we're going to get you guys out of here safely. And yeah, that was a memorable one. And I remember mom and dad calling. They're like, so how was the game? I was like, well, we got escorted out of town. And they're like, oh, no, you guys didn't. And then they came back and talking to some of the parents, and they're like, you weren't lying.
That's hilarious, because I remember at least one of the fights I had seen from watching like a high school game, and it was a handshake line. I'm pretty sure it was like Downers Grove South team, and I think it was at the Glen Ellen Ice Arena.
It doesn't surprise me.
It's so funny. There was times like where shit got really chippy, like in our games, or like a fight broke out or something, and they would want like to know who did it. So my dad was always the one that like got the locker room, so he always gave his keys up. But the thing is, my dad had a fake set of keys that so he would just give him the fake set of keys, and if they're like not like wanting to like give the key back or whatever, he's just like, okay, bye, and it's just like we just leave. And they're like, what do we have his keys? It's like, yeah, those keys aren't to nothing. So
that is brilliant. I love that idea.
Oh God, yeah.
Now, because of this, rinks are going to start taking driver's licenses or something.
Yeah. I think that's probably why. It's like luckily enough, like that wasn't the case at the time.
Yeah, that is awesome. So you finished your high school career. It sounds like you went on and played college. Where'd you go and play after?
I went straight to Eastern Illinois University.
Okay.
But like I didn't do anything from the end of like high school hockey season, I don't think, until that season started, because I had played lacrosse in like the spring, and then summer was just like, hey, it's like we're all gonna go to college, like we're just having fun.
Yep.
So I showed up to the like Eastern Illinois, and like the team wasn't that great, so it was like I was like, everybody makes it, because there was only like maybe 24 guys already. Mm-hmm. And I was just like, all right, well, it sounds good, but like I could have probably been in a way better position of playing, but I was just like dogging it for the first few weeks. And then I was like, okay, well, then I was just kind of like, we rotated, but and I was mainly gonna be like mainly the starter. Like if it was a game that we thought we were definitely like we could easily win, like we should be in it, like I would be playing. Like so it was fun. But there was definitely there was some more fights that broke out at Eastern Illinois than there were that broke out in high school when I was there.
It's funny you say there were 24 people that probably tried out for the team. My freshman year, I think we had 24 goalies trying out for the team.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So that was a stressful time for me. And I was able to ask my goalie coach on the podcast, what were you thinking when you chose me to fill that last spot? And he's like, you were a locker room guy. I was like, I knew it. I knew that was my role on the team.
Hey, get to be around the game more. That's all.
Yeah,
that's all that matters.
I didn't complain. I had the fastest store in the Mayak.
You know what they say? Like all the players, whenever they like leave the league, the one thing they miss the most is the boys and like the locker room. So it's like, hey, if you just get to be there for that, like it's a win.
That's what I try and impart on, the young hockey players I know. It's like, yeah, you're going to miss the competition, but what you miss most is the locker room and practice, because that's where all the fun antics happen, the fun little rivalries with teammates. As a goalie, there was always some of those shooters where you weren't going to let them score no matter what, and they were going to go bar down best they could, and as if it were game 7, just because that's what I miss.
I love the one where if it's like you're just kind of standing around the net and then they go to shoot at a wide open net, you just stick your stick out and just like get a piece of it and just like they're like, why can't you just let me get something?
Right. I remember the one time one of those guys was doing that, and it was like Vasilevsky before Vasilevsky. I'm sitting down and I just did one of these and catch it, and he's like, seriously, I can't put anything into it.
Just getting people so upset, and you just laugh and just skate away.
And they're upset, but they're laughing at the same time. It's like that's what you miss most. So Eastern is Eastern in the ACHA or
they're in the ACHA. I had a very short-lived career there because I basically didn't go to class, so I was only there for a semester.
that will do it. Yeah. So
I just kind of played hockey and partied and had fun.
That sounds like a lot of people I know that went to Eastern. I know a lot of people that started at Eastern and finished elsewhere for similar reasons.
That was it wasn't my decision. It was my mom's. She was like, you can't go back. You like don't even have a 1.0 GPA. I was like, I could fix it. Trust me. And she's like, you can't fix it. And I was like, okay, you're right.
They'll let me in, if they let me come back, I have a chance.
Yeah. It was probably a good idea to not go back though.
So what did you do after that semester?
What I ended up doing was going just to the community college, Triton College, for like a year and a half. And then I ended up working at Disney World.
Oh, that's cool.
I did like the college program. And then when I came back, while I was at Florida, I applied to Robert Morris University, which is in downtown Chicago. Because I was like, well, I want to go back to playing hockey and like go back to like doing like a legit school instead of community college. So I kind of just got like all of the electives out of the way. And I was like, well, that was actually a way better idea to do that than spend so much money at a college to get, sorry, I have like the sirens going off in the background.
That's okay. That actually answers one of the questions from when I listened to your podcast is which one of you lives by the firehouse? What station do you live by?
It's because I live in Edgewater and I live at the end of Lakeshore Drive. Mm-hmm. So it's on Sheridan. So it's like the busiest street. So let me close this window real quick. It might help a little bit.
Yeah. No, I mean, it makes sense. My dad was a Chicago fireman. So whenever I hear those sirens, I'm like, all right, who's going out?
It happens so often.
Yeah.
I was saying like electives and stuff like that got out of the way. I applied to Robert Morris University, got in there, and like I was excited to go there because they have 4 hockey teams.
Yep.
And a girls team, and it was like free to play.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, okay.
And they're pretty good too. I had a few teammates that played for them, and they loved it.
Yeah, they have the D1 ACHA team, the D2, and then they had 2 D3 teams at the time. And since I hadn't played in like 2 years, and like I kind of just got a few skates in like over the summer leading into that year, I went to the tryout. And I thought I did really well, and I just didn't get picked. And so I was on the D3 like 2 team, like really bad. Like there was kids that would like had not played hockey before that wanted to play hockey, and I was just like, this is gonna suck. But I've met some of my best friends from there, and it was just kind of like we were all like first year players. And the weird thing was like the coach of like the first D3 team, which like they had like decent kids, like they just could either make the D2 team, but then they also had kids that had just played the year before. And the coach had moved from being the second team coach to being the first team coach, and kind of just like took some of the guys. And I was like, they're not fucking better than like half of the guys that we have that just are brand new.
Right.
And it's like weird, but it was still fun nonetheless. Like our team was fucking terrible. Sorry, but it was just so bad. I think I averaged like 60 shots against a game, like average.
That was my high school career. Although it wasn't that we had guys that were just starting to skate. We had talent on our team. We just didn't have a team of talent. If that, we had a lot of individual players, but not a lot of team players. And there was one game the coach pulled me halfway through, and we were only down by 4. I was like, "What's going on?" Like, in our terms, we're in this game. He's like, "You've had 60 shots already." I was like, "Oh, it didn't even feel like it. It just felt like I was in a groove." But
yeah, right. You just don't really notice once you're getting peppered like crazy.
Yeah, and I remember, playing those 17-minute high school periods, averaging 60 shots a game. Then I go to college and we have 20-minute periods. And I think my first game, I saw 21 shots and I was never so bored. I was like, oh my God, it was almost harder facing one shot every few minutes than it was, 10 shots a minute.
Yeah. Plus you get the time off in between periods.
Yeah.
And like in high school, you have like the 2 periods, then they do the ice.
Yeah.
And then you get the final period.
Yeah, we had the full resurface between every period in college, and it was like, oh my God, this game's taking forever.
Yep, that's what I felt too. And it was funny because like when I was at Eastern, I had this similar situation where it was like close to 60 shots against a game. Yeah, and my coach was like, our team at Eastern was funny because like our coach wasn't like a coach; he was just like a student that ran out of eligibility to play. So he was like, "I'll coach you guys." And it's like, all right, sounds good. And at one point he was just like, "Man, Tanner, your goals against average isn't looking too good." I go, "Yeah, but have you looked at my save percentage?" And he's just like, "What do you mean?" I was like, "Do you know how many shots we get against a game?" And he goes, "No." And I was like, it's close to 60. And he goes, "There's no way that's true." I was like, "Okay, we'll see." And then my dad came to a home game because they were like, "Well, it's not that close, but we'll make it like down for a week." And I go, "Hey, bring your camera and keep track of shots." And he goes, "Okay." And so then he comes, and then I go, "Hey, you want to know what my dad tracked shots were?" And he goes, "What?" He goes, 62. And he goes, "Are you kidding me?" Like, "Yeah, man, I'm telling you, this is like the average." Like, didn't that look like average play out there? He's like, "That doesn't look like 62 shots." I was like, "Well, it was."
I'm pretty sure my sophomore year, I had the highest goals against average in the league, but probably the best save percentage because of that. Yeah. It's like, I remember looking at, the stats every week at SIA, because that's back when they printed them up, because this was at the infancy of the internet. So they just had a spreadsheet that they printed up every week. And, I was right at the bottom for goals against, but save percentage, I was always like right at the top. I wish I would have looked at the end of the season to confirm that it stayed that way.
I wish they had those stats just like posted somewhere online, like archived, because I always used to check the Metro West stats like weekly to see where like our team was, where I was like, it's like, all right, where am I?
Yeah. Well, my mom and dad would videotape some of my games, and they had the old Wayne Gretzky goofy little camcorder, and I still have a bunch of those tapes. The only problem is we don't have they still have the camcorder. It just doesn't turn on anymore to transfer them. But it would be kind of fun to fire those up and digitize them so I could maybe count how many shots in those games,
Yeah. I think I just threw away like all of the like recorded games that we had, because I have highlight films from like my junior and senior year that are like every goal and every like big save, every like huge hit. Like my dad took like when he videotaped the games, he would like call out to himself on video, like, "Oh, like clip this." And so then at the end of a game, he would go through it, check all the stats. He would clip the things that he told himself to clip, save it. At the end of the year, he would put them all onto a DVD with music in the background, and it would have like the team that the clip is from and like what the score ended up being, and like just go. It's like an hour long, each one like junior and senior year. It was insane. It was just like, all right, well, that's
awesome.
Really unnecessary, but great.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure the rest of the team loved it
and so
too.
it's just saved on my computer.
that is
Oh yeah,
awesome.
Everybody got a copy.
Yeah. My dad wasn't that technically advanced at that point in time. In fact, I remember at the firehouse, they moved away from their old Morse code system to computers, and to get the guys to touch the computers, they had put solitaire on there. And that's how he learned how to use a computer.
Oh my God. I feel like the first computers, the only thing I was doing on them was just playing that pinball game.
Yes. I remember that one. So
that was a good one.
You finish playing at Robert Morris. Listen to your podcast. I know you've had a chance to do some skating in Chicago's version of the Butte League. How did you get hooked up with that?
So actually, I'm not on their team because I bartend all the time. And like all the games are like usually late night.
Yeah.
So but Jerem's on the team.
Oh, okay.
And like a few of our other buddies are. I'm not entirely sure how he got into it. Jerem just like knows a bunch of people. He like works for Pro Stock Hockey.
Yeah.
And so he has like a lot of connections with just like random things. Plus like Pro Stock Hockey has been doing like the oh my God, it was like the professional like summer league that they had like pros come out to and like prospects and stuff. So he just like knows tons of people through like all sorts of different connections. And I don't know exactly how they got into that league. It's pretty neat though.
And I love the highlights they share because they have some of the best talent. You know, the fact that Patrick Kane sticks around and skates in it, is pretty cool. I haven't made it to one of the beauty games up here because it's on the other side of town.
Okay.
One of these days I'm going to make it though, because it's in a great old rink. It's in the Dyna rink over by all those cake eaters. But yeah, I mean, there's clearly talent in that league too. But they just don't have a guy like Kane skating around,
right?
lighting it up. So the podcast, Windy City Benders, how did that come about for you guys?
So it started with Jerem and two of our other buddies, Brian Nolan and Andrew Potzinger, and they were just like all together and they're like, hey, let's start a podcast. And also, this is also like almost 4 years ago at this point, because we just had Chris Versteeg on, and that was a good episode. Released. It was released on the 4-year anniversary of like the first episode of the podcast. So they had started it, and I was just like, oh man, I want to be on that so bad. Like, I love talking hockey with everybody. It's so like so much fun. So like they did a few episodes, and then I was like, I want to be on it. And then they're like, all right, you can call in. And so like I called in and chat with them for a bit and like really loved it. And then they kept doing their own thing. And then I was able to be on it again. And then they were like, a lot of people that like we hang out with like have been, when they listen to the episodes, they really like it when you're on. I'm like, well, I'll be on it like all the time. And so they're like, okay, we'll just bring, like, you want to be on it all the time? I was like, yes, like I do. And so then it was the four of us for a while. And then like just life things have happened where like Potsy and Noli haven't been able to do it as often. And so like we still extend them like an invite like every once in a while, like if there's like something special to like talk about or anything, but you know, they're just kind of busy. So it's just been Jerem and I for the past, I don't know, like a half year, like year or so. I'm not entirely sure. I don't even keep track of the time. We just have been able to do it more like consistently now that like we're not trying to schedule it with 4 different people.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, even me doing this once a week sometimes gets difficult. Now it's baseball season. My son's a baseball player. So it's like, oh boy, I scheduled a few of these, and then baseball schedule came out. I was like, I might have to move some of these around. So yeah, it's kind of tough even scheduling it for one person, yet alone get 4 people involved.
Right.
Now my struggle is a little bit different in that you got, for those that haven't listened to the Windy City Benders podcast, it's primarily focused on hockey in Chicago, but you guys do talk about other stuff going on. I'm sure next episode you'll talk about Tom Wilson.
Yeah, we'll definitely be touching on Tom Wilson.
He's touched upon enough other people. You might as well.
Yeah, it's very true.
So you guys talk about the other stuff going on in the league, and sometimes what's happening in the beer leagues. Now goalie brain I have, I forgot where I was. Oh, but it's mostly just you guys. Every now and then you guys do have guests. Like you said, you had for Stieg, you guys had Eddie Belfour on talking about his whiskey like I did. In fact, I got my bottle back there.
I kind of missed what you were saying a little bit.
Oh, no.
It kind of broke up a little bit. And so it kind of like went a little weird and I couldn't hear what you were saying exactly.
Not a problem. I was saying, the podcast is primarily you guys talking about hockey in Chicago, other stuff happening around the league and sometimes the beer league stuff, but it's primarily just the group, whether it be the two of you, the four of you. Every once in a while you've had guys on, like for Stieg, the last episode, you've had Belfour on talking whiskey. It's hard to just get your four down. It's even harder when every week you got to find somebody else and make sure it works with their schedule. So it's that's the side of podcasting I don't think a lot of people appreciate.
If we were able to do it like full time and be completely paid and like be comfortable, it's like, sure, I have all the time in the world to do that, but it's like I have a job, Jerem has a job, like everybody has got their own work plus like outside things that they got to go on, and it's just like just trying to figure it out.
It's like I got a full-time job, 2 kids with activities, couple dogs, a wife, the lawn to mow, all that good stuff. And it's like somehow I'm fitting in this podcast.
There you go. You got your hour and a half to yourself that you can get this done.
But credit definitely goes to my wife and kids for making sure when I say, hey, I got a podcast, they're like, okay, we'll be quiet. We'll make sure the dogs are somewhat in check.
There you go.
Yeah.
That's nice.
In fact, after we're done recording here, I got to run my son to baseball. So it's like, make sure you got your bag ready. When I'm done, we got to get in the car and go. He's like, okay. Yeah. So, these days when you skate, are you playing in the beer leagues? What one are you skating in?
Well, if I'm able to skate, it's usually just like skating with Jerem and his team, like filling in.
Okay.
I don't know. I haven't like put on the skates in like a while though, just because usually if they're skating at night, like I'm typically working. And then if I wanted to do anything like that's not at night, it would be like really early in the morning, like rat times in Chicago. And it's like, well, I usually just get home pretty late because I'm bartending, and then I'm not going to be waking up for like a 6 a.m. skate. So it's been just like tough, but like during the pandemic, we got ice like one time, and they're like, yeah, you want to come out? And I was like, absolutely. But I haven't been able to like put like the skate, like my goalie pads on in a minute. I'd be terrified to put them on at this point because like I feel like I would be trying to do like too much and just completely like rip my groin in half, because I already pulled it like twice when I was like in shape and a goalie. It's like mostly full time, and I was just like, don't want to end up just destroying myself. But I miss playing, and I'd really like to just get out there and just skate as a player sometimes too, though.
I can't remember the last time, other than pond hockey with the kids, I don't remember the last time I skated out. I'm one of those weird goalies where it's like, no, I just want to stop pucks.
Oh yeah.
That's my mentality. I'm one of those guys where, I probably could skate out if needed, but it's not as fun to me.
That's one of those things when I was actually at Robert Morris, because we were on that super bad team. We had like 3 or 4 goalies because like they just accepted everybody. Yeah. And so there was times where like I wasn't gonna play, but like my buddy, he was like, I can't make it to the game. I was like, hey coach, can I just like play forward in a college game? And he's like, yeah, go for it. And then it's like, all right, cool. So I took my buddy's equipment. We're playing like, I don't know, like in Milwaukee or something. And he's like, all right, like I just go out there and just try and do something. I was like, all right. And the first shift, like I get on, like hop the boards and flying towards the puck and just destroy a kid and then just like continue the play. And I was like, I just always wanted to hit somebody. So and so then I get back to the bench and he goes, what the fuck is wrong with our team if our goalie's hitting people harder than everybody else out here? And I was like, I just always wanted to do that.
I think it's funny when goalies do skate out, people are surprised at our hockey sense. We're just in places making plays that they don't expect us to. And when I was coaching, I would run our fall training program. We were finding ways around the rules in Minnesota. And because I was technically a volunteer coach, I wasn't technically a coach. Okay. So I could run our fall training stuff, and the coach would come watch, and we would scrimmage the last 20 minutes of practice. And I always hopped out there, and the one day the guy's like, for a goalie, you're pretty good. You're always in position, and it's like, why does that surprise you? Like to before I can play my position, I have to know what everybody else on the ice is doing. And he's like, yeah, I suppose that makes sense. It's like, yeah, so I might not be the fastest, I might not have the best hands, but I know where to go. So
yeah, right.
yeah, it's like, oh Jesus, some people just don't understand that.
Yeah, it's funny to me when people are surprised that like goalies know more than a lot of other people. It's like, I watched the game from a different angle than you, like, the entire time. Like,
yeah, we're not.
I know where everything is.
We're not just the fat kid who can't skate, contrary to what the Mighty Ducks movies and series will tell you.
Oh, seriously.
Although I have to say that new series is a lot better than I thought it would be.
Oh yeah, I gotta check it out.
Yeah, so it's kind of fun. It was coming out, and so my daughter watched the first movie, and then she's like, all right, now I got to watch the next two. And now it's like every Friday, that's what her and I do. We sit down and watch. So honestly, I don't care how good the series is. I love it because it's not too often a 14-year-old wants to sit down and spend time with their dad on a weekend.
That's awesome.
I'm like, yep, it's my favorite show on TV right now. It doesn't matter how good it is.
Yeah, that sounds really great. Just being able to connect with your daughter like that, especially over like Mighty Ducks. Like,
yeah, because I mean, she doesn't play hockey. We had the backyard rink this year, and she would skate, but it's not like she's a hockey player by any means. Although when she was little, it was during the Hawks' first Stanley Cup run. She would stay up late and watch the games with me, and I taught her that when they score, that she was supposed to yell out peanut butter. She didn't know why. She just knew peanut butter.
There you go.
That was Q's thing.
Oh, I love that. Yeah, I don't know what that was for, but it's just great.
Yeah. So yeah, that first Stanley Cup in 2010, she was 3 years old, and so she was watching that game with me, shouting it out. So that was kind of fun.
Oh man.
Yeah.
What a time.
Yeah. So I don't know how much you've listened to the podcast, but I do like to close them out with a list of 10 rapid fire questions. And I say close it out. We've only been talking for a half hour. They tend to take a half hour. So I'm trying to give ourselves some time.
They're rapid fire in a sense of just like you say them kind of quickly, but then they're extended answers.
Yeah, exactly. And they usually lead to other stories. And I've found that it's almost better just to let that play than stick to a bunch of questions I have pre-prepared. Unless I'm talking to a guy like Eddie Belfour, where there were questions I was just burning to ask. Because, like he was my idol growing up. And so when I was able to get him on the podcast, I was like, I've got so many questions, but so little time.
That's how it feels like every time we get to talk to somebody. It's like, all right, we have 30 minutes. And then you're like talking to someone and it's like, we're 20 minutes in. Oh my God, I haven't asked like half the things I want to ask.
Yeah. Well, it was funny because when I had Kelly Rudy on the podcast, I was like, yeah, I'll take up an hour of your time, and like 45 minutes in, it's like, just checking that you're good on time. He's like, yeah, this conversation's going great. Let's just keep going. I don't care how long we go. And,
That's awesome.
We talked for close to 2 hours,
That's fantastic. Oh my God.
So yeah, he was a real treat to talk to. And, we had our conversation over beers since we both like our beer.
Nice.
So the first question is, what is the craziest coaching moment from your playing days? Man. Coach just losing it.
I don't know. Like, I want to say like when maybe my coach, like my freshman year, just like lost it because like my freshman year of high school, because like one of the kids on our team was like a real big hothead. Mm-hmm. And like for whatever reason during the play, the kid had come, he was like right-handed. So he like swings around and just two hands a kid like on his thigh and breaks his stick in half over him, like in front of the net. And like our coach was already pissed during the game because I think it was just like out of hand. And so he just lost his shit and like threw stuff on the ice and told the kid to not even come to the bench. He goes, just get the fuck off the ice. Just like, it was just like, what is happening right now? It was just, oh my God. I think that was like the craziest kind of situation. Cause for the most part, like my dad would be on the bench and he'd be the one to get kicked off. Like anytime like the refs like did something wrong, like my dad would be the one that would be yelling like the fuck's your problem and like all this stuff, and then they're like, you're done, like leave, get out of here.
Yeah.
Oh, all right.
Yeah, I remember
so, like, the coaches usually were still like a little bit more level-headed.
Yeah, I remember a game we were playing St. Rita. I won't tell the kid's name, but there was an incident that got way out of hand. You know, he was fighting, and then he's skating by the bench, spitting on our bench, and the coach, he didn't even lose his temper at that. He was just like dejected, like this is actually happening. You know, this St. Rita coach. But it was so bad that our next practice, that coach came out to apologize for this kid's behavior.
Oh, wow.
It was like, wow, that kid wound up actually getting expelled from school.
Okay.
And as the coach said, it wasn't solely because of that incident. That was just the hair that broke the camel's back.
Right. I'm sure the kid's got other problems if that's the thing that he's doing in the game.
St. Rita had some interesting players at that time. I told the story on the podcast before. There was another player that jumped me in the lobby of SIA after the game from behind, just because he didn't like me. And the thing is, like, we were friends in middle school and we played roller hockey, but now that we went to different schools, he's like, I don't like them. And just, you know, it was like, that's weird. Okay, this is, they were an interesting family. It was one of those, you'd walk into the rink and usually see either his name, his brother's name, his mom's name, or his dad's name on the state suspension list. It was rare that all four of them were at a game.
Oh my God.
So what is your favorite all-time goalie mask?
So I had to think about this because I would listen to a couple just to kind of see like what might be asked. And honestly, like when it comes to like goalie masks, I couldn't even tell you what kind of masks were in the league right now because everybody's got something so crazy and unique that's like very personal to them. Yeah. That it's not so iconic as like Cujo or like Eddie Belfour.
Yep.
Where like I love like those helmets because it's so simple, but like so like it looks so good. Even like Van Beesbrook too.
Oh, I loved that.
I think like the one that like I think is kind of cool that's in current NHL that's like pretty simple is like Bishop's helmet.
Yep.
Like when he had it with like the Lightning and he's got it with like Dallas where it's just like the neon lightning. I think that's just nice and clean and looks good. And other than that, like the most recent one would probably be like Crawford when he had like the headdress, even though that's probably not too PC at this point, but I thought it was still pretty neat looking helmet.
That he always had really nice, clean masks. I always liked them, and they were the kind of what I appreciate about Crawford was he didn't get a new design every year. He would go a couple years with the same design. Which that's another thing you don't see these days. Usually a guy's changing up his design every 3 to 4 weeks.
I mean, if I was in the NHL, I would just do that too, though. I would have like new pads, like every month, like new helmet, like just because. Me too. I would get the new pads, but I'm one of those. I'd probably keep the same design. Just like switch up the colors, possibly.
Yeah, maybe that. You know, I'm trying to explore the option of getting new pads finally, since first time since 1999. I'm still wearing a pair of Von Legacies I bought at Jerry's in '99.
Nice.
I
Jerry's Warehouse.
Yeah, I want that old, circle look on them. But I've had the conversations with Vaughn, and they're like, can't do it. Like, first of all, those dies were for 12-inch pads, and we don't even have them anymore. I was like,
those are too wide now, right?
Yep. I was like, even if I pay the custom charge, they're like, nope, we can't do that. I was like,
That's crazy.
I was ready to break the internet with those. But now I've been told, no, I can't do it. I suppose I can talk about it. So what's your favorite rink that you've played at?
I mean, I got to play at some pretty cool ones. Like I got to play at the United Center. I got to play at the Joe Louis Arena. I got to play at like the Indianapolis Racers Arena.
Okay.
Like, where Gretzky played. Yeah. And I was like, that's pretty neat. I don't know, some places in Canada that were like amazing too.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know. I think like those are some of the top ones. I played at like the All-State Arena as well, like where the Wolves play.
Yeah, that's a fun rink.
Yeah, but I don't know. I think that's like those are just like amazing to be. I think the weirdest is the Joe Louis, because like being there, like it's so dark, and like I don't know. I guess it would be different with like fans in the stands, but I remember just being like with the red seats and like how dark the arena was. Like every time the puck went up into the glass, like I would just lose it, and I was just like, where did it go?
Yep. Yeah. So I got to ask this one, having played at most of the rinks in town, what's your favorite rink in Chicago?
I mean, I used to love like Ridgeland Commons, like growing up, that's where I played. And then they tore it down and rebuilt it, and it looks insanely amazing. Other than that, like I played a lot at the Edge. Like I played there for the Blues, and then there again for Robert Morris University. So like I kind of just know that rink inside and out, and like kind of really do love that rink though too.
Yep.
I don't know. Fox Valley is a really nice one. I don't know. Addison always has like a weird feeling to it, because it's like an old school arena or like rink that like I also played at like a lot when I was like on the Oak Park Eagles. Just remember being like so ready to be in the rink and just being freezing every time. Just
I was
like
playing
at Addison. Oh, no.
I was playing for a junior team, the Chicago Force. I wound up leaving the team before the season started, because it was either play for them and miss my senior year or play my senior year. And it's like, I see where I am on the depth chart here, and I'm not confident this league is going to make it through its first year, which it didn't. And we were the only northern team. Everything else was down in like Florida, Mississippi, Georgia. So like, road trips were going to be a bear. So, but we were playing out of Addison, and that is an interesting rink. And that was when it was still new. So I'm again showing my age, but I have to say for me, SIA is my rink.
Yeah.
Southwest
Ice Arena.
I played there back when they had the Oregon, back when I first started playing, they still had wooden boards.
That's hilarious.
Yeah. I remember the year they replaced the boards and went with modern ones, because those old wooden boards were just sponges. People would get hit into the board and it would just go like that, and you'd watch the wave go down the line, and you'd fire the puck in the zone and it would almost just drop right down there. And then that first game with the new boards, people dump it in and it would like ricochet back all the way into the, their own end. And they're like, oh, this is different.
Yeah. These are a little bit different new boards here. Huh?
Yeah. And then, you line somebody up against those boards like you used to, and then now you're both hurt. Yeah. They're like, okay, can't do that one anymore. I spent a lot of time at Oak Lawn too, because I worked there in high school. So that's another rink that's got a soft spot in my heart for different reasons.
Isn't that where Brother Rice had their home games?
Yeah. No? Well, when I played, we split between Oak Lawn and Southwest. Okay. And I think now they're all at Oak Lawn and Morgan Park.
Okay. Because I remember playing at Oak Lawn, against Brother Rice, like during high school.
Yep. Yeah, it's a nice rink. I like it. There's stories from that rink that are worth sharing at another time. Maybe not on the podcast, but worth sharing. So what's your favorite goalie stick that you've ever used?
Oh my God. I had, I don't even remember what it was called, but it was like when they first started getting like composite sticks for goalies. Okay. And it was like a TPS, and it was like a Lundqvist curve, and I think it was like something that he had used, but we were at like a tournament, I think, in Michigan, and like my dad was like, "Oh, do you want to get the stick?" And I was like, "Yeah, okay." Like I didn't even ask for like a stick. He just thought it looked cool. I was like, and he's like, "Okay, it's really expensive. Don't break it." And I was like, "Okay." And then I used it for the entire season, and it was probably like being held together with a lot of tape by the end of the season. I was just like,
those early composite sticks for goalies were so brittle.
Yeah. It was weird because it was like, how like the net gets attached on the edges of the pipe where the metal comes out like slightly.
Yep.
I had done something where like I came across with my stick and like the back side of the paddle hit directly onto one of those and just took a little chunk out of it. Like, and I was just like, oh my God. And this was like weeks into having the stick. I was like, oh no, like right above the heel of the blade. And I was just like, oh no, this is not going to be good. And so I just had to I was just like taping it to cover it all the time so that my dad didn't see that it was just like messed up 2 weeks after he bought it.
Yeah. I liked the old Christian sticks that were infamous for being heavy logs, but the heel would start to split. And so I was cheap and Dad was like, I'm not buying you a new stick till it's broken. That thing's in perfect shape. So it was not uncommon for me to take the wood glue and just like squirt it along the heel, put the stick in the vise overnight, and then sand, whatever came out and tape it up. And I added a little bit of weight to the stick, but a little more life to those sticks too. It's like, kids don't get that with the composites these days.
I remember having like I forgot if it was like it was called the Cujo curve.
The Curtis curve.
The Curtis curve, where it like the stick curved down so that when you put your like paddle against the ice, it would go against the ice, and then it curved out so that if you dropped your stick, you could pick it up really easily. Yeah, that was like one of the first goalie sticks that I had, and that was amazing.
Yeah, Andy Moog was the only NHLer to use that one.
It was hilarious.
Yeah, there are Facebook groups still dedicated to the Curtis curve and trying to find remaining ones, and
like Mike Green trying to find like an instant synergy anywhere like while he was still in the league.
Well, I never used one, but the goalie clinic I went to, this name might ring a bell, the Darren McCluskey Greater Chicago Goaltending School. He was more on the south side though.
Okay.
But some of the kids had the Curtis curve there.
Yeah.
And I would try it out at the clinic, and I was like, nope, not for me. Did not like that one.
One of the, like for my sticks growing up too, one of the weirder things that I did, or that my dad did, was he would take hockey cards of like goalies that I liked and that were like really good in the NHL, and he would fold them up and he would tape them into the knob of the stick.
Oh, that's an interesting one.
So I always had like at the time like Hasek and like Osgood and I don't know, maybe like Van Beesbrook or something like in the knob, just like taped in the knob of my stick. And it was just like, that's supposed to give me the power of the goalies in the NHL. And I was like, all right. And then it would just transfer him to the next stick every time. It was just really funny.
So he would use the same card from stick to stick, or?
Yeah. Like if I had to get a new stick, he would just like untape it and then put it back on the new one until like, I was like, all right, I think I'm good with this.
Yeah. How many cards did you wind up having in your sticks? Did he just keep adding to them, or what?
No. It was just like 3 or 4 that just like kept going to the next one. And then if anything, we would just like swap them out.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it was pretty weird. I was just like, yeah, it sounds like a good idea, right? Like, why not? I was a kid.
You weren't superstitious, but you were a little stitious.
Exactly.
And that worked.
Exactly.
What's your favorite youth hockey memory?
Oh man, I think one of my favorites is just, well, we played in Canada in like this tournament 3 years in a row, and in the third year we actually won the tournament, which is fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
But the funniest part about it was we played the Chicago Chargers. So when we played them in the finals, like too, like when they announced the game, like beforehand, they were like, these teams travel like however many miles, and they play in the same league together in Chicago to just play each other here. It's just like, this is so weird.
My senior year, we went down to Indianapolis for a New Year's Day tournament, and we get there and St. Lawrence is there. And we're like, are you kidding me? And they didn't have us playing each other, but we were getting worried as we were both winning games. Like, we might wind up playing each other at some point here. And the best part was, if I remember right, we had just played each other. Our last game before the holiday was against each other. So we're like, are you kidding? We got to come all the way to Indianapolis to play each other. And then, so the tournament started on New Year's Day. Everybody got down there New Year's Eve, and a blizzard hit overnight. Chicago got like 2 feet of snow. Indianapolis got a foot and it just shut down the whole town. On the crawl for the news, it was everything that was closed, such and such beauty parlor. It went so granular that it was so-and-so's funeral postponed. But yeah, that was a fun one where it's like, yeah, who are we going to be playing? Luckily, it worked out where we did not face each other, but we also stayed at the same hotel too. Yeah. So that made for some fun times, because when it comes to the Chicago Catholic Hockey League, we hate each other on the ice, but off the ice, we all went to the same parties and hung out together. So the fact that we were at the hotel together was like, oh, this is cool. The parents mostly knew each other and got along. And back my freshman year of college, I'm moving in, and I noticed these people going into the room next door to me, and I was like, I know that person. He played at Mount Carmel. And then his roommate comes in and is like, oh, I know him. I played youth hockey with him at St. Jude, and he went to St. Lawrence. So in 2 rooms, we had almost half the Catholic Hockey League represented. And throughout the school year, we'd be going back and forth, calling each other's schools the worst names. And then somebody else would pipe in and pick on one of our schools. And all of a sudden, all 3 of us are like, and they're like, well, you were just saying stuff about them. They're like, yeah, I can. Like, we're brothers. We can pick on each other, but you can't pick on us. Otherwise, you deal with all of us. So
this is just our thing.
Yeah, they just didn't get it. It was amusing. So what is the best chirp you've heard on the ice, off the ice, directed at you, not directed at you?
Oh man, I think my favorite was, I can't even remember anything that's like that like happened during our games, because I would always probably be the one just like saying a ton of like random shit.
Yeah.
There was a time that my mom was at a game and she was like near the players' benches, and then she had heard some kids from the other team skating back to the bench, and all she heard was the guy go, "Did you hear what that goalie said?" and she asked me after the game, she's like, "What did you say that made them say that?" And I go, "I have no idea." But I think the one that I know of, but that's like not have anything to do with me playing, would be like Adam Burish, like chirping like the Sedin twins.
Yes.
Just being like, "Hey Daniel, tell your brother he's ugly." Just like, I think that's like one of my favorites.
Yeah.
Or just like any of those like that you see on like the NHL like chirp videos. Those are so fantastic. But yeah, it's hard to remember like any one specifically that would stand out that like was at me or in a game that I was playing in.
Yep. So what is the worst post-game beer you've had?
I didn't it's not exactly a beer, but I had post-game vodka one time. It was when we were at Eastern. We were taking a bus home after losing 2 games in Kansas, and one of our players, because like I told you before, like we didn't have a real coach. We just had a college kid that was coaching. Yeah. So on the bus ride home, they're like, "We're gonna get really drunk," and I was like, "All right." And I had started to feel really sick. And so I was like, they had bought like a handle of vodka, and there was like 6 rookies on the team. They're like, "You guys have to finish this before we get back to campus." And it's like, I had been drinking a lot already, like before that year. And this is like during that year. So like I was fine. And
yeah.
So I told other guys that were rookies, I go, "Okay, you guys are going to have to finish this because I'm feeling really sick." So I just chugged like a quarter to like a half of it. And it was like, I'm done for the rest of the trip right now. Like, yeah, you guys have to finish this. And they go, "Okay." And the guy that had bought the handle looked at me, and like they had drank with me before, and they're like, he can hold his stuff. And he just looked, he goes, "This isn't even fair. They have Tanner." And I was like, "Yeah, it's all right." But yeah, no, it was the worst. It was a plastic handle of vodka after losing 2 games to Kansas.
That's awesome. So when you tape your stick, do you go heel to toe or toe to heel?
I always had to do heel to toe, because I would always lean on the stick so often that like what you were saying, where the heel would like split.
Yep.
So I would tape the heel like super tight and then just go down like regular from the heel. So I always like started at the heel.
Yeah.
And then with that story I told you about with the TPS stick, where it like broke a little bit above the heel. So then I started doing all my tape jobs like 2 inches above the heel, and then it would go into the heel, and then
almost like the Hashik.
Yeah, it was just like, all right, this is just what I do now.
Yeah, it works. It's your thing. You got to go with it. So what?
I mean, it worked. Like,
yeah,
it worked out pretty well.
Yeah, I've seen crazier things. In one of my beer league games, I saw the guy literally taped his entire paddle, and it was like,
that's gonna be falling apart at that point.
Well, when I saw that, I was like, and I saw like his equipment, I was like, you're gonna suck, and we're gonna light you up. And yep, just somebody that went to like play it again, didn't know what he was doing, and yep.
Oh my God, I loved that feeling. No matter what age you are, just like playing hockey and you look at the other goalie, you just see their equipment, you go, oh, he's going to suck. And you're just like, yes, we're going to win so easily.
And sometimes it's not necessarily the equipment, it's the way they wear it too.
Yeah.
There's just something about it where it's like, oh Lord, because there's been times where you see a goalie with just like it's probably what teams think of me when I walk out there for beer league with my 21-year-old pads and everything. They're like, oh, we're going to have a night. We're going to have to work for it. There were those times where it's, the goalie doesn't care what he's wearing, how he looks. He's just like, I don't have to prove myself. My skills are there. There were those.
I've been wearing this for years. I'm fine.
Yep. Yeah. It's an extension of my body at this point. So when you play, what's your favorite number to wear and why?
It's kind of like growing up, I had my favorite number. It was 96. And I mean, it was
Big
weird because,
fan.
Yeah. I mean, when I changed from defense to goalie, they had 2 jerseys that were a goalie size, and it was 1 or 96. And I was like, I think 1 is a stupid number. And my dad's like, well, it's also, you started playing goalie in 1996. And I was like, yeah, that works. And so I wore 96 for like a bunch of years until I like went into a different team where we didn't have like our own jerseys. Like the jerseys were given back at the end of the year. So I was like, I bounced between like 30, 31, 33. And then when I got to high school, like my coach also didn't want numbers over 50. So I was like, well, I can't even get 96 now.
Yeah.
And so I think I was 31 in high school. And then I was like 33 and like 30 in like college, because it was the same situation. I was just like, man, this sucks. Like, I just wanted 96 again.
Yeah.
There was one time growing up, I think I played against another goalie while I was wearing 96 and they had 96. And I was just like, you and me, man, we have something going on.
Yeah. You get it.
Yeah. It was pretty great.
Yeah. So what advice do you have for young goaltenders?
Oh, I love like the thing that I think of that I wish I did more of is skating. Just honestly, like footwork and skating is like Dean's, like it's so important. And I've always, like as a kid and like seen kids just be like, why do I have to skate? I'm a goalie. And it's like, well, you should really work on your feet, because when you're getting into like really competitive seasons, like you should be so quick and light on your feet to get from side to side and like be up and down and everything. Like your feet are probably the most important part about everything you do. Like when it comes to positioning and just moving around in general, like every push off you take has to be very calculated from side to side. And it's very, very important to work on your like footwork.
Well, and people laugh at me when I say the goalie should be the best skater on the team.
Oh, absolutely.
Take the equipment off all your players and have them skate around. Your goalie should be the best skater. And they're like, well, all they do is stand there. It's like, no, they don't. And they should be the best skater on the team. And, and that's another way, they truly understand the game when they're like, well, yeah, absolutely. Now I say it to a few people and they know it'll get under my skin. And they're like, you guys just stand around though. The puck just comes to you. It's not like you do anything. It's like, I hate you.
You find out what kind of position they are. You just go, all you got to do is just score, right?
Yeah.
All you got to do is just stand in front of the net and keep people out from in front of the net, right? That's
or some people, all you got to do is try and stay out of the box.
Yeah. Just fill the water bottles, right?
Yeah. All you do is keep stats. So where can folks find you or the Windy City Benders podcast on social media?
Oh, I think everything is under like WCB Podcast, whether it's Twitter, Instagram. I'm sure we have a Facebook. I don't have a Facebook, and I got rid of Twitter because I'm just like not into it anymore. Yep. I still have an Instagram. We have a Spotify, we have Apple. I think every either Woody Bender's podcast or it's WCBP or WCB Podcast.
Yep.
It's kind of, yeah. And then, I mean, I'm also on PlayStation and I'm on Xbox. I think both of mine are like Tanner_WCBP because like, I don't know, I was able to change it for like free and I was like, all right.
Awesome. And I'll be sure to put the social stuff in the show notes so people can find you guys and
for sure.
Listen to the podcast. You know, if you're a fan of the Blackhawks or just like to hear other hockey people ramble about hockey, it's a good podcast. I always look forward to it coming out and listen to it while I go through my work day and do my mindless tasks or work around the house. So it's worth a listen.
I almost forgot we're also on the Hockey Podcast Network. That's kind of a newer thing too for me. So
yes,
it's a fun little situation we got. We got to do a little ad read, and I'm like, oh wow, it's like almost like a real podcast now.
People are listening. Well, awesome. Well, Tanner, I appreciate you taking time out of your day to chat with me and talk goaltending and hockey and podcasting.
I appreciate it, man. It's a lot of fun. I enjoy talking hockey no matter what, if it's professional, if it's like reminiscing or just anything at all. It's always brings a smile to my face because then it just also pops up so many memories that I like forget about. I'm just like, oh yeah, there's this thing that happened. That it's like,
yep.
But it's so great.
I was in North Carolina over spring break visiting my folks and, sitting there, me and my dad were at the one place having a few drinks and the bartender happened to be from Boston. He was a hockey fan. We started talking hockey. It was just fun, telling the stories, listening to the way my dad remembered the story versus the way it really went down.
Yeah.
It's always fun to hear those things happen. So again, thank you. I appreciate it. And I encourage folks to check out the Windy City Benders podcast as well.
All right. Awesome. Thank you so much, man.
Yeah.
I was thinking about just going to Gunzo's at some point and see if they have anything. Because I mean, I even forgot to mention that I worked at Gunzo's. That was my first job. Yeah.
You worked at Gunzo's, like the hockey mecca.
Yeah.
I mean, people across North America know of Gunzo's.
I worked at the one in River Forest, and it was my first job, and so it was hilarious because I would because I said before, like we had our home games on Sundays. So when the opposing teams would come in, they would always. Like a lot of them would stop at Gunzo's and I would be there before my game and I would sharpen everybody's skates and I would like be tempted to just like fuck people's skates up so bad. But yeah, all the guys on my team, they would always come in and they would get their skates sharpened before games on Sundays. And I would just like have music and just sharpening skates for like 4 or 5 hours. Yeah. It was the best.
I still remember going
job by far.
I used to have their old black and white catalog that I wore out. But I remember going to their original location and I got a pair of Cooper Durasoft pads there the one time. I think I got a chest protector there. Yeah, I got a chest protector there because my first one was an association chest protector where it was the two-piece, looked like the catcher's chest protector and then the arms. And I got injured wearing that and the doctor's like, you need something a little better. So then got in the car, headed up to Gunzo's because Jerry's wasn't around in Crestwood at the time. So yeah, Gunzo's is a great place with a great logo that I'm glad they've never updated. It's just like perfect for the time.
No, it's the best.
Yeah. It's everybody knows Gunzo's. If you're our age and in hockey, doesn't matter where you live in North America, you've heard of Gunzo's.
Yeah, it was great. It was the best place ever.
It's always fun to talk to somebody who played their high school hockey in the Chicagoland area. I've been listening to Tanner on the Windy City Benders podcast for quite some time, so it's fun to get him here on Tendy Talk. If you're a fan of the Blackhawks or just looking for another hockey podcast to add to your rotation, give the Windy City Benders podcast a listen. You can follow them on Instagram at WCBP You can find them on Facebook and Twitter at WCB Podcast, one word, and search for them on YouTube. You can find me on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube simply by searching for Wash Up Goalie. Visit washupgoalie.com for some great hockey-related content, my beer league hockey video highlights when I'm able to find a skate during this pandemic, and of course, all podcast episodes. If you want some Wash Up Goalie or Tendy Talk apparel, be sure to visit my Threadless shop by clicking the merchandise link on my website. If you like this podcast, go listen to the BLPA Big Show. It's the OG BLPA Podcast Network show. The BLPA Big Show is a couple of beer league players chatting about beer league hockey, draft experience shenanigans, and exploits from around the game. The show is hosted by Nick Jones and Trish Dangles, with other co-hosts filling in from time to time. I need to thank the band The Zambonis for allowing me to use their music on my podcast. You can download their music on iTunes or wherever you stream your music. I'm working on lining up other goalies to talk to. If you are a goalie or have connections to one I should talk to, shoot me an email at washupgoalie39@gmail.com or send me a DM on social media. Let's not forget, if you're a brand who wants to sponsor the show, reach out to me and we'll work something out. And finally, if you like what you hear, be sure to subscribe, rate, and comment on the podcast platform you're listening on. It's a quick action on your part that helps others find Tendy Talk. Until next time, keep your stick on the ice and your body square to the puck.
I'm a puck and this song's about me. I'm bouncing off the post, just wobbling. Sliding like wet soap in the sink. A stick needs to slap me in my face and shoot me in the net, cause that's my place. I'm a puck, that's who I am. May not look it, but I'm very important. I'm a puck, that's who I be. If you're watching a game of hockey, you're watching me. Let's do the ice. I'm banged against the boards every night. And if the ice is not done right, I pay the price. I jump like popcorn in the microwave. Can you believe I do all this and I don't get paid? Not a dime. I'm a puck. I'm the rebound. When I hit the post, you'll hear an awesome sound. I'm a puck. Yes, you are. Born in Slovakia. Forever being slapped and there's no stopping you. That's right. Cause I'm a puck. Nothing's changed. When I'm loose in the crease, it's just insane.